Sometimes the fear of the unknown is not fear at all. Sometimes it's grief for the identity you can no longer recognize. One of the hardest parts of starting over after a major life upheaval is not always what happened. Sometimes it's standing in the middle of a life you no longer recognize, trying to figure out who you are now. Even if the life you had was scary and unstable, you knew it. You were familiar with it. Now you don't know what comes next. I think a lot of women believe they're supposed to feel excited when a new possibility appears, when the new opportunity comes up, the new beginning, a new relationship, a new job, even a chance to move forward. But for women who've lived through abuse and domestic violence, we do not feel excitement first. We feel fear and then shame for feeling afraid. Because on the outside, the opportunity might look wonderful, but on the inside, everything feels uncertain. And uncertainty can feel terrifying when life has already changed in painful ways. Maybe you've experienced this. You're offered a new job, a really good opportunity with more money, a healthier environment, and a fresh start. But it would mean moving, changing schools for the children, leaving the routines you know, possibly even leaving the people who help support you. It would mean learning a new city, creating a new life. And suddenly, what should feel exciting feels overwhelming and terrifying. Your mind starts racing. What if I make the wrong choice? What if the children struggle? What if I fail? What if I regret this? And the big one, what if I can't handle all of this on my own? And then sometimes comes the judgment. Why am I making such a big deal out of this? Why can't I just decide? Why am I so afraid? And that can become years of overthinking, overanalyzing, and staying stuck. But does it have to? I think we need to speak honestly about this fear. When life has changed dramatically once, you begin to understand that everything can change. And once you know that, you stop moving through life with the same innocence you had before. You begin looking for guarantees. You begin trying to predict outcomes. And it's not because you're weak. It's because you've learned that choices can carry consequences. You begin scanning for what could go wrong before you even allow yourself to consider what could go right. It's because you've learned that choices can carry consequences, especially after trauma, especially after divorce, betrayal, and especially after loss. You become more aware of how quickly life can shift. And that awareness always creates hesitation. It's not that you don't want a better life, but because certainty no longer feels like a possibility. It feels like risk. And underneath all of this, there is often something deeper going on. It's not about the decision itself. It's about no longer having the stability of knowing who you are. That identity may not have been healthy. It may have been built around survival, keeping the peace, holding everything together, making yourself smaller, overthinking decisions, trying not to upset anyone, staying safe, surviving. But it was familiar. And familiarity can feel safer than possibility, even when that familiarity hurts. Because at least you knew who you were. You knew the rules, you played, and you knew how to navigate it. But now, nothing's familiar, and you're standing in open space. And that open space can feel terrifying, especially when you've spent years orienting your life around survival. I think this is where many of us quietly begin shrinking our lives. Not because we lack intelligence, and not because we lack capability, and it's not because we have no dreams, but because shrinking feels safer than the uncertainty. So we stop considering possibilities. We stop trying new things. We stop dreaming out loud. We avoid making decisions. We wait and wait and wait some more. Waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel confident, waiting until we know exactly how everything will work out. But confidence rarely comes first. More often, confidence is built in the step. And certainty rarely comes first either. Honestly, if most of us waited until we felt completely certain, we would never move at all. What happens instead is that movement creates clarity. One small step teaches you something. You gather information, you learn, you adjust, you begin seeing what you could not see before. And I know this can feel uncomfortable. Many women have spent years trying to protect themselves from making the wrong choice because wrong choices had consequences. So naturally, you want a guarantee before moving forward. But life doesn't offer guarantees. What it does offer is the opportunity to discover new things about yourself. You get to discover that you can make decisions without collapsing into fear. You get to discover that you can adjust if something does not go perfectly. You learn that you can face uncertainty without letting fear take over. And that's very different than asking yourself, how do I make sure nothing ever goes wrong again? This does not mean ignoring wisdom, nor does it mean you get to make impulsive choices. It means understanding that you cannot think your way into complete certainty. At some point, you have to begin allowing yourself to explore possibility again. For many women, that starts very quietly, not with some giant leap, but with questions. What if I tried? What is the worst thing that could happen? What could I do if things didn't go perfectly? Can I handle more than I think I can? And what if this actually worked out better than I imagined? Those questions matter because they begin opening spaces again. And I think there is another layer to fear that often goes unspoken. Sometimes the deeper fear is not, what if this goes badly? Sometimes the deeper fear is, what if this changes me? Because it will. Taking the new job will change you. Moving to a new city will change you. Starting over will change you. Speaking up will change you. Being seen will definitely change you. And making different choices will change you. Creating a healthier life will change you. Even good choices can feel uncomfortable when you've lived one way for a very long time. Because now you're no longer moving through life the way you once had to in order to survive. And that can feel incredibly vulnerable. Some women tell me they feel almost exposed, like they no longer know exactly who they are. And that makes sense. Because when so much of your energy has gone into surviving, managing, anticipating, and holding things together or protecting yourself emotionally, there is often very little space left to ask any meaningful questions. Questions like, what do I actually want? What matters to me? And the big one for me was, who do I want to be? Those are not small questions, and they're not answered overnight. I really want you to hear this today. Not knowing everything does not mean you're unsafe. Not having every answer does not mean that you're failing. And uncertainty does not automatically mean danger. Sometimes uncertainty simply means you're standing at the edge of a life you've never lived before. And of course, that can be frightening. I think many women believe they need to become fearless before moving forward. But I don't think that's true. I think moving forward often looks more like this: feeling afraid, feeling uncertain, feeling unsure, and still choosing one honest step forward. Not 20 steps, one. One phone call, one application, one boundary, one conversation, one decision. One moment of telling yourself the truth. That is how lives begin changing, not all at once, but choice by choice. And over time, something very important begins happening. You stop looking outside yourself for guarantees. You begin building trust in your ability to meet life as it comes. That is a very different kind of confidence. Not the confidence that says nothing hard will ever happen again, but confidence that says hard things may still happen, but I'm learning that I can handle more than I once thought I could. That changes everything. Because now your life is no longer being built only around avoiding pain. It begins being built around possibility. It's being built with truth, choices, self-respect, curiosity, and eventually hope. Not pressure, not perfection, not pretending you're never afraid, just a willingness to stop letting fear make every decision. So if you find yourself standing in uncertainty right now, know that you're not weak for feeling afraid of the unknown. You're human. And perhaps this season of your life is not asking you to have every answer. Perhaps it's simply asking you to loosen your grip on the life and habits that once helped you survive. So maybe the goal is not to remove every fear about the future. Maybe the goal is to stop allowing fear to make every decision for you. Because the truth is, none of us knows exactly what comes next. Life changes, people change, circumstances change. And after going through major upheaval, that really can feel frightening for a long time. But slowly, step by step, choice by choice, you discover something important. You can survive uncertainty without shutting down. You can make decisions without needing guarantees. You can build a life without knowing every detail ahead of time. And perhaps that's where self-trust begins. Not in certainty, but in learning that you can meet the unknown without fear running the show. So as we finish today, let's take one deep breath together. May you begin to understand that you do not need every answer before taking one honest step. May you remember that uncertainty does not automatically mean danger. And may you slowly loosen your grip on the life and habits that once helped you survive, so there is room for something different to grow. And that's enough for today.